Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Ichigo got massive harem by usnig love lotion part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Anomynous Nin for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Let's start this video. Once upon a time, in a quiet world where there is peace, in this quiet and calm night, there existed a young girl who is sleeping soundly in her home, dreaming a good dream. A dream where all that she can think of is peace. Actually, this isn't some kind of a fairy tale story. What I am really saying is, somewhere in Japan, in the quiet town known as Karakura, in the middle of this fine night, we came across a certain pad where a certain auburn-haired girl was sleeping soundly on her bed, dreaming of anything that she found normal and peaceful. But in everyone else's case, that would be weird and kinda embarrassing. Yes, we are talking about Ichigo and Orihime, a young girl with a special power that she received from her involvement with a certain substitute Shinigami. She was laying on her bed, sleeping soundly under the covers that warmed up her body from the cold temperature of the silent night. She was simply wearing her red pajamas, nothing special about it. If anyone has the ability to get inside someone's dream, then I assure you, you don't want to get inside of Orihime's, since it involves a big Orihime robots? Well, anyways, you can't get inside of her dream. It's weird. Everything is very peaceful during her slumber. Everything is alright. And nothing was going to bother her in her sleep, that is, until she felt a presence that made her wake up from it, as she slowly opened her eyes just a little. Who? She murmured, still feeling sleepy after being woke up from her sleep. As her eyes were opened a little more, she saw a black figure appearing in front of her. It was too blurry for her to see who it was, so she blinked a few times to get a clear view on the figure. To her surprise and shocked, as she widened her eyes upon remembering that figure, she saw a certain orange-haired boy, who appeared on top of her and surprising her from his appearance. "Kurosaki-kun?" she whispered, still surprised to see a familiar friend on top of her. And because of that, it kind of made her nervous and embarrassed at the same time. Looking down at him, she was once again surprised to see him topless, only wearing his blue jeans. She could easily see his toned muscles, bare and six-pack abs, which made her blush at the sight of them. But why is Ichigo there? And topless even? She was about to ask him that, but she soon trailed off when she looked at his brown eyes, which showed a desire of love. What does it mean? What was Ichigo trying to do? Before she was about to make sense of it, Ichigo did the unexpected on her. He slowly leaned his face down to hers, as the gate between them were slowly closing in. With her eyes still widened in surprise, she was about to ask what he was trying to do, but then, no words were out, as his were setting onto hers. That wasn't like Ichigo to did something that she couldn't expect it to happen, since she knew him a lot, and that action was something that Ichigo had not revealed any intention on it to her before. After a few seconds have passed, he slowly pulled his face away from their kiss, adding a small gap between their faces. Orihime still had her eyes widened in shock, not like she had gave herself into the kiss unexpectedly. Ichigo was still looking at her with love in his eyes. There was no doubt about it. What he was showing to her is true love. Kurosaki-kun, she could only speak out his name, as she was unable to speak out more words from her mouth because of the sudden kiss. And before she knew, the young orange-haired boy was slowly moving his right hand, as it left its post of standing next to her head. It was moving towards the area, before it started to undo the ons of the top clothing of her pajamas. She gasped in surprise, as her blush slowly deepened in color. "Kurosaki-kun! What are you?" She couldn't finish it up, as he was done undoing most of the ons, before he pulled each of the open sides up, exposing her large bosoms from their cover. He did, luckily, as he managed to catch her in time just before he would fall on the ground with her on top of him. And with that, the two of them spinned themselves around, because of the strength of Orihime's lunge. They both started to laugh together, as they continued to spin around, while knowing that they're in each other's arms. And they soon eventually stopped spinning, as the two of them looked at each other deep into their eyes. "Hey, Orihime-chan! Glad to see you again," said Ichigo, smiling widely at his new girlfriend. "Me too, Ichigo-kun," said Orihime, as she continued to smile up to her new boyfriend, while Rukia, being the one who wasn't in the way of that relationship, was unsure of what just happened. Orihime suddenly lunged herself at Ichigo, and they seemed to be happy to see each other. Although, even though she thought that it would be normal, somewhat, what bothered her a little more was that two of them called each other by their first name, and with the suffix at the end. Why? Ichigo-kun? Orihime-chan? Could it mean that Ichigo and Orihime are? No, it couldn't be. Maybe she was gone for too long and that she didn't witness an event that possibly changed Ichigo and Orihime's view of each other. That has gotta be it. But her guess was shot down when she saw the next big thing. As Ichigo and Orihime continued to look at each with one feeling inside of their eyes, they slowly leaned in towards one another, before the space between them disappeared from each other. And the scene in front of Rukia made her jaws drop to the floor. Okay, now there was something that she didn't know about. And Ichigo and Orihime kissing each other was something that she needed to know. The last time that she saw the two of them together, they were great friends. But then, now, she could see that two of them are together, because of the kiss they shared right now. What does it mean? Ichigo and Orihime slowly pulled away from the kiss that they shared with each other, looking at each other with love in their eyes. It was only last night, since they have each other, but it felt like an eternity when the next day came by. Slowly, Orihime rested her head onto Ichigo's, making her hear his heart beating through it once more, just like last time except that she was wearing clothes, at least. She continued to listen to his heartbeat, as she felt herself getting sleepy by listening it from the of her love until she realized that she saw that there's someone else, standing next to them. Opening her eyes wide enough to see who it was, she was surprised to see a familiar person there. She gasped. Kuchiki-san? The young Shinigami was still speechless, with her jaws still hanging in shock from seeing what she saw in front of her. But when Orihime called her out, she seemed to have snapped out of her shock and look at the auburn-haired princess straight, but with the small feeling of shock still inside of her. Hey, Orihime. Long time no see, right? Even though Rukia showed small happiness for Orihime, because of, well, you guys can guess it easily, Orihime, on the other hand, was more than happy to see a familiar friend by her side once more. She slid off from Ichigo's hold, and went over to hug Rukia tightly in her arms, hard enough to make her let out some of the air from her lungs. Oh, Kuchiki-san, it's so great to see you again. I thought that it was the last time that we get to see each other, but now, there you are. Back in our world. Oh, it's really a miracle to see you here. Oof. It's nice to see you too, Orihime, she said, as she was able to smile out to her, even though that she was suffocating from the strength of Orihime's hug. After a long while of resisting being passed out from the loss of air, Orihime let her go, finally. The young Shinigami took some time to retain her breath, before she had enough air to be able to speak out some more. Ichigo? She started to say, as she looked at the orange-haired Shinigami with her eyes showing curiosity. Are you and Orihime? Well, she had a hard time to say what she wanted to say, and she was pointing at the two of them one by one, in an endless cycle, until she received an answer. Oh yeah? I forgot to tell you about that. But it was still early, so I didn't really think about telling the others about that, replied Ichigo, as he rubbed the back of his hair, as he remembered that Rukia didn't know that he and Orihime were together, and that knowing it made her at the loss of her words. Oh. So, you two really are together then? Orihime nodded in response. Yes, she said with a smile. However, she suddenly realized something. Rukia was the one who started all of that, and since then, she was with Ichigo most of the time, helping him out in vanquishing hollows. How long had it been since she was with Ichigo around that time? And when Orihime thought about that, about Rukia being with Ichigo most of the time before, could it be that? Kuchiki-san? Are you upset to see me and Ichigo-kun together? The black-haired Shinigami then looked at Orihime, wondering what she meant about that. Her being upset to see Orihime and Ichigo together? Why would she thought that she would be upset to see them like that? Unless of course Orihime was thinking that she no. I'm not upset. Really? Rukia quickly said, waving her hands in front of her, showing that what Orihime was thinking about was not the case. I was just surprised to know that you two are together, without me knowing about it. And besides, it's not like I like Ichigo or anything, I'm just thinking of him as a good friend. And also she took a moment to pause herself, taking a few good breaths, before letting out a warm smile at the two of them. I'm really glad that you found someone to love with, Orihime. And with Ichigo, no less. Do you really think so, Rukia-chan? Of course. There's nothing that makes me think otherwise. Although the young Shinigami took a sly look at Ichigo, smirking, as she thought about something about him. At first, I thought that Ichigo was gay. What? Exclaimed Ichigo, his eyes widened in shock at hearing that from Rukia. Whoever said that I'm gay? I'm not. I like girls. Really? Then how come you never show any interest in girls? And if I can understand it, I heard that you were being attracted by some guys like Ikaku and Zaraki Taishu, so I came to a conclusion that you, well, that conclusion is wrong, Rukia. I love Orihime-chan, and nothing will say it otherwise. I love her with all my heart, and I care less with other guys. Is that true? Are you sure it's not because of Orihime's large? Hearing what she said, both Ichigo and Orihime blushed. Well, what she said did show something that is quite right. Ichigo had saw Orihime, with her and all. But is it true? To Ichigo, it's not. Of course not. I don't love her because of her. I love her because of who she is, a kind lady who is strong enough to take care of herself, even with a rough life. Rukia would continue to fake the fact about Ichigo's love for Orihime, but she decided to shrug it off, so that it wouldn't piss him off a lot more. Alright if you say so, but I'm still not convinced that you didn't love her just because of her, she said before she turned and continued her path to the school, leaving the two of them behind. But she also left an angry Ichigo behind, just because she still thought that it was because of her. I told you, it's not because of them. I just love her, that's all, he shouted, as he was close to try and chase after Rukia to bring her down and force her to accept that fact that he loved Orihime just because of her, and not because of her. But he soon calmed down, when Orihime started clinging herself onto Ichigo's right arm, pulling herself closer to him so that he wouldn't try and make a jump at Rukia. Ichigo-kun, it's alright. I know that it's not because of that you love me. And Kuchiki-san was just playing around. She wasn't going to keep on with it to make you even angrier. I believe that deep inside of her, she knew that you truly love me. And I do too. Isn't that right, Ichigo-kun? She said, smiling up to her love. After seeing her smile, his anger seemed to have calmed down a little more than before. Her warm smile was something that he could be happy to see. With a soothing smile of his own, he nodded. Yeah. You're right, he said. He then leaned in to gently kiss her on the once more, in which she returned it with a kiss of her own. After he pulled away, it's about time for them to go on, after having a long chat among friends. Well, let's get going, Orihime-chan. Shall we? She nodded, as she continued to smile at her love. Yes. Let's go, Ichigo-kun. And with that, the two of them resumed their walk towards the path that led them to the school. Just a little far ahead of them, Rukia turned her head back to look at the newly formed couple, smiling to see them together with their smiles showing their happiness with one another. Ichigo, you really are something, she whispered to herself. Good morning, Ichigo. Oh, that same, usual and obnoxious voice again. It came from one of Ichigo's friends, Asano Kigo, as he was seen lunging himself towards the orange-haired boy with the same fun expression on his face, just like the usual days. It was the usual routine for Ichigo, as there was one thing that would stop Kigo from doing what he usually did. By moving his arm, the forearm facing Kigo, his face suddenly collided with it, halting his lunge dead on. Ugh, morning, Kigo, Ichigo said, as he let the damaged classmate to slide down to the ground, with his face in pain. With each and every passing days, Ichigo's arms seemed to be much more harder every time, and if that keeps up, then Kigo would seriously break his own face. Right now, we are now inside of Ichigo's classroom, where the day was still early, and the bell is yet to ring through the school. Ichigo was found standing around the windows, with Chad and the other guys by his side. Rukia was seen sitting in her place, as she was being greeted by a lot of people in the class, since she was a new student there, even though that she was before. And Orihime was seen standing next to her place, looking around the classroom to pass some time. Any sign of Chizuru? Nope. Not yet anyways. That was when Tatsuki went over and stood next to her, looking at her as if she wanted to know what happened last night. Hey, Orihime! How are you today? Oh, great, Tatsuki-chan. Just great, Orihime said, smiling to her friend, just as usual. So tell me, how's everything with Ichigo? Did everything go out as planned or? Oh, that? Well, it was going well, Tatsuki-chan, but Orihime wanted to tell her about all the details, but one of the things that she didn't want to go through the details was that she masturbated and was fantasizing about Ichigo. If she told her that, then it would be embarrassing. So, she went out to only tell her a simple explanation, and putting the masturbating part aside. Yes, everything was going well as planned. And now, Ichigo-kun and I shared a strong bond with each other. Oh, that's great. I told you that Ichigo won't change his mind about you, if you play your cards right, and I'm glad to know that you and Ichigo are. Tatsuki trailed off, as she began to suspect something about what Orihime said. The name. And the name that she heard from her was not Kurosaki-kun, but Ichigo-kun. Did you just call Ichigo Ichigo-kun? Orihime, having realized what she had called Ichigo, quickly placed her hands over her mouth, as if she was trying to stop herself from speaking anymore. But it was too late. Orihime, usually, you just called Ichigo Kurosaki-kun, like, you were trying to be polite for him. But then, why did you call him by his first name? And with the suffix kun? Tatsuki began to think about that, about why Orihime called Ichigo by his first name, and what not. Until she found the answer in her mind. Whoa. Wait, hold on a sec. Orihime, are you an Ichigo? Orihime blushed, as Tatsuki was able to find the answer of that. She wanted to keep it a secret for a little while longer, but oh well. It's only Tatsuki, so it wouldn't be so bad if it was her who found out that Orihime and Ichigo are together. She nodded in response. Yes. It's true. Oh my. I can't believe it. You and Ichigo are. Tatsuki was about to say more of it, but then, she quickly silenced herself, realizing that there are still people around them, and they don't know about Ichigo and Orihime's relationship. But even so, she was feeling happy when she found out about that. That's so. Orihime, I'm really happy for you. You and Ichigo are. That's really something. Orihime was still blushing, and her blush was getting redder by the second that Tatsuki learned of that fact. She looked down to hide it from her friend, but she managed to even nod in agreement. Yeah, I know, but I wonder Tatsuki still remembered Orihime's problem, and wondered if that problem got involved in that, and that it resulted in the full-grown relationship that she and Ichigo shared with each other. Orihime, did you and Ichigo have Her blush was getting redder when she knew what Tatsuki was talking about, so she quickly shook her head and waved her hands fast enough to show her that they didn't do it. No. We didn't. We didn't go all the way yet. Really? Wow, I guess you must have done something that made you two a couple. But I won't ask you that any longer. I'm sure you want it to be a secret between you and him. Yeah? I do. Orihime's blush was still there, but not like the other times. Her blush stayed at the current color that it was in. She was relieved that she didn't have to tell her about how the two of them got together, because that would be something that she would want it to be a secret that only she and Ichigo know. But suddenly, without even Tatsuki to realize it, someone suddenly glomped Orihime in a quick blur, making her yelp out of surprise, as she fell to the ground hard, along with the mysterious person who glomped her. That got everyone's attention, as they all looked to see what happened. Oh, my sweet Hime-chan. At last I am reunited with you, after all this time, said the person who glomped Orihime and made her fall like that. To Tatsuki's annoyance, that person was none other than Chizuru, who lovingly hugged her Hime-chan with everything she had. Chizuru-chan? Said Orihime, as she looked down to see who it was. Now no one is getting in our way of our love, now that we're here like this. Hime-chan, please let me give you the love that I have for you, said Chizuru, as her hands were already in their way up to Orihime's, before they groped each of them in each of their hold. Chizuru-chan. Hey! Please stop! Plead Orihime for her to stop. But she wasn't stopping. Chizuru was always like that when it comes to love her Hime-chan, and when she was able to get to Orihime, she would usually grope her as much as she want. And even worse, go all the way even when there are people around her. That was something that Orihime didn't want it to happen. She liked Chizuru, but not that much. And she wanted her to stop doing that so many times. But then, someone came and kneed down next to them, before he pulled Chizuru off of her with his hands. Hey, knock it off! Didn't you hear what she said? The one who came to Orihime's aid was Ichigo. He then stood up from the ground after a few short seconds, and he leaned his hand down to the fallen princess, in which she accepted it and grabbed it to pull herself up from it. Chizuru, after being pulled away from her Hime-chan, was feeling agitated. As she got up from the ground as well, she looked at the person who pulled her away from her, such as Ichigo. Oh, it's you! How dare you pull me away from Hime-chan? You don't have the right to do that. Hey, I just did that because she wanted you to stop, you crazy lesbian. Ichigo said, glaring at the young redhead lesbian. And didn't you hear what I said? Orihime. Just then, Ichigo quickly halted himself, as he realized that he was about to call Orihime by her first name, and with the suffix, no less. If he would call her that, everyone from the classroom would already had an idea that when he called her that, it usually meant that he and she are together. And if that happens, all hell will break loose. At least, that's what he thought, but he still believed that it was that. Inoue told you to stop. And that's what I did, stopping you from going any further on her. We're still in class, you know. Ha! So what? I can do anything I want with my sweet Hime-chan. And there's nothing that you can do to stop it, you orange-haired bastard. shouted Chizuru, as she stuck out her tongue at him, taunting him with how she felt about him. And that was hatred and disgust. Ichigo growled softly at the redhead lesbian. He had just about enough of her crazy fantasies. He was about to take a move on her, until he was stopped by Orihime, who clung herself onto his arm, just like before. Ichigo-kun, don't, Orihime said, looking up at her lover, pleading him to stop himself from doing anything rash on Chizuru. But in no way when he looked at Orihime's face, it showed that she was scared for him, and that she didn't want him to go wild against one of her friends. It would hurt her, and maybe him too. Ha! What's wrong, jackass? Chizuru shouted once more, smiling that Ichigo wasn't doing anything to her. Is the big bad wolf becoming fragile because of what a cute and sexy bunny said? Well, if you're not gonna get me, then allow me to have my way with Hime-chan. She was about to walk over to Orihime to resume what she was going to do with her, until her sight was set onto the one spot, and that spot made her widen her eyes. Why? She saw Orihime clinging onto Ichigo. When that happened, that usually meant that no, it couldn't be right. Orihime was still too scared to tell Ichigo of her feelings for him, and Ichigo probably didn't know about it for a long time. So then, why was she clinging onto him? Unless, she looked up at Orihime. Then at Ichigo. Then back at Orihime. Then back at Ichigo. And so on. It was then she got it all together, and when she looked at Ichigo once more, after exchanging stares at the two of them, her expression became sour, and she was feeling pissed off into finding out what exactly happened. You! What have you done with my Hime-chan? She screamed at him, which made everyone in the classroom wince at the volume of her scream. Without any moment to lose, she lunged herself at Ichigo, her nails ready to scrap his face into pieces. Rawr! I'll kill you, you bastard! However, before she could even be 10 centimeters away from Ichigo, pow! She was suddenly being punched off, and got sent flying to the wall, where she was colliding against it. Because of that, she was completely immobilized to move, and she was stuck there for who knows how long. The one who sent her flying over there was none other than Tatsuki, who was just in time to punch her off from doing anything rash to Orihime, or even doing anything violent on Ichigo. Geez, Chizuru! Give it a rest already! She shouted. After she has done that, she let out a sigh of relief, releasing herself from exhausting any more power. Well, that takes care of that, she said, as she turned around to face Ichigo and Orihime, giving them a warm smile. She won't be able to move for a long time, so don't worry about her. As she said that, she began to take a look around the classroom, and before she could relax herself, she noticed that everyone was staring at one place. And that one place was Ichigo and Orihime. Oh, Tatsuki-chan, what's wrong? Asked Orihime. I think they know. They? Asked Ichigo. It was then that both him and Orihime started to look around them, as they both noticed that everyone is staring at them, fixing them like a machine fixing its view at a certain target. Why are the rest of the class looking at them that way? Because they all saw what Chizuru saw, Orihime clinging onto Ichigo's arm. It usually meant that she was scared and that she wanted to hold someone to keep herself from being scared too much. But in Orihime's case, when it was with Ichigo, that wasn't quite normal. And if that really happened, then that meant wait, hold on. Am I dreaming it? Did I just see Inoue-san? Said the male student, unable to believe what he was seeing. A female student gasped out of surprise and joy. Oh my! Inoue-san and Kurosaki-san are. Oh my gosh, it's gotta be true, there's no way. Inoue-san is scared of Kurosaki-san. So then why? Said another male student. Inoue-chan and Kurosaki-san together? Wow, that's something that you don't see every day. Said another female student. And before they knew, everyone all began to chat around about Ichigo and Orihime. Hearing all of those comments about them, both of them blushed deep red and looked down on the ground to hide their blush. That wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't what they wanted their revelation to be. That was a really wrong time to confess it. Ichigo. The both of them both heard an obnoxious voice calling out to Ichigo. As the orange-haired boy looked up, he saw Kigo, with his face still red because of his collision with Ichigo's arm, lunging at him with tears in his eyes that fell out of it in a comedic way. You didn't tell me that you and Inoue-san are together. How could you hide that from me? I thought that I was your friend. Pow! Poor Kigo. He had shared the same fate as Chizuru, as he was being kicked hard towards the wall, colliding with it, and being stuck next to her. He was immobilized as well. Shut up, Kigo. I didn't tell you this because we got together a short while ago. It's not a big deal, you know, muttered Ichigo, who was a little pissed off, but still, a little embarrassed that everyone in their class learned about his relationship with Orihime. and if he could tell, his face was turning almost red, along with Orihime. Wow! I have to say, I'm really stunned. They both turned to see one of Ichigo's other friend, Mizuiro, who had the same reaction as with the other class, but his reaction turned out to be something that he was happy about. I never thought I'd see the day where Kurosaki Ichigo, a ruthless guy who solved his problems by fighting, got together with Inoue Orihime, one of the beautiful girls of the school who usually gets intimidated when he looked at you. Wow, it's pretty amazing. Congrats, you two. Thanks, Mizuiro. I think, said Ichigo, still hiding his blush from everyone else, just like Orihime. Heh. Nice job, Kurosaki, said Yuryu, who got Ichigo and Orihime's attention, as he smirked at the two of them. And to think that I thought of you as a gay guy, ever since I met you. Hearing that from him, a vein popped up from Ichigo's forehead, as he scowled at him. What? You too, Ishida? Do you want to have a face full of footmarks? Yuryu ignored what Ichigo said, as he adjusted his glasses and went back to what he was doing in his seat, reading a book. Hey! The both of them turned once more to see the large Mexican student looking at them, with his usually unexpressive face. He had nothing to add about that subject, so he could at least do what he usually does with things like that. Congratulations, you two, Chad said. Thanks, Chad, said Ichigo, unsure if he would feel appreciated after receiving a congrats comment from his good old friend. Thank you, Sato-kun. We appreciate it, said Orihime, who felt the same way as her love. And so on, everyone in the class started to chat around, about how they felt about Ichigo and Orihime being a couple. Some guys and girls were devastated that the ones that they had a crush on had found each other to love with. Some of them were shocked to see them together, but didn't complain as much as the others. And some were happy to see them together, after who knows how long, in which they were Ichigo and Orihime's friends. And with that, the couple became a hit news for them. After seeing that most of the class were taking it rather well, Tatsuki sighed a little, as the revelation of Ichigo and Orihime's relationship didn't cause much of a ruckus. But still, just by having their relationship exposed was something that the two of them were feeling embarrassed about. Well, so much for keeping it a secret, right? She asked. Yeah, Ichigo and Orihime both said it in unison, with their face still looking at the ground, but there wasn't so much blush on their face like before. Come on, you two. It's not that bad. At least it didn't bring it to chaos or anything like that. And that news will soon to be old, once they learn to accept it. So it's alright for you two to have a relationship with each other. No one is going to bother you about it. You'll still live a normal life even with each other. You got me, you two? Tatsuki said, as she smiled at the couple. They both slowly looked up to her, with some of their blush showing, even though there wasn't much of it anymore. Yeah, they both said it at the same time once more. Alright. As long as everything is alright with you two, then everything will be fine from now on. Just make sure that each of you make the other happy with everything you have for them. Because I know that you two are a perfect couple. So no worries, alright? Yeah, Orihime quietly said, her eyes still fixing on the ground. But then, she learned to forget about it, and got herself determined. Yeah. Thanks, Tatsuki-chan. I really need it. Ichigo felt the same as her, as he nodded to Tatsuki in response that he felt the same with Orihime. Yeah. As long as we get along well, everything will be alright. That's good to hear. Tatsuki shouted, glad to know that the two of them were both okay with the situation that they were in right now. But then, she then set her eyes up to Ichigo, as she slightly glared at him in response that she had something to say to him as well. And remember, if you do anything that will hurt Orihime, I swear, I'll come and find you, and when I do, I'll kick your ass for as long as I want. Got it, Ichigo? Ichigo could only smirk at Tatsuki, as he understood what she was trying to warn him, but was sure of himself that it won't happen for a very long time. Don't worry, I love Orihime-chan. And I won't hurt her no matter what. That's a promise. Tatsuki let out a small smile, as she nodded to him. Alright. A promise is a promise. While everything was happening in the classroom, Rukia was looking at the scene around her, as if she was the only one who didn't get in the fiasco of some sort. But as soon as she learned that everything would be alright with both Ichigo and Orihime, she smiled to herself. Yep. You really are something, Ichigo. Time has passed since the morning. A few hours has passed since school was starting, and with Ichigo and Orihime being the new couple, everything went along just like before, as if they just forgot that the two of them were together. But they didn't, and they all learned to respect that and move on to their normal daily life at school. And that was what matters the most. But throughout the events that happened in the school, there was one person who was watching it outside, as he stood on the right side of the school building, looking down at what he was watching, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike out his action. That person was a man with a black hooded coat, in which his face was hiding by the darkness of the hood that he was wearing. You can say that this man was an enigma, and he was watching what he wanted to see. And yes, it was the same man who was looking down through Orihime's place last night. Everything is in place. And it won't be long for me to get my first victim, said the hooded man, as he moved his hand up to his hood, and pulled it off of his head. It showed off its appearance. Spiky silver hair with a pair of purple eyes. In no way Orihime was already taken care of out of her own accord. Now, my next target is Kichiki Rukia, he said, as he continued to look down to the ground far down from where he was standing. If his knowledge was correct, then it would be a matter of time until Rukia, and the rest of the class, were going out of the school building to play some sports, and that was where he would nail his target. With a special weapon. Then, he heard something ringing through his ear, and felt something vibrating from under his coat. He wondered who it was. He slid his hand inside of his coat and pulled out a black cell phone, in which he opened it to answer it. Moving the cell phone up to his ear, he took a moment to respond. Aki here. Did you finish your mission? The silver-haired man, who is called Aki, by the way, let out an annoyed groan from his. It was the voice of his master coming out of the cell phone, and he was asking him that certain question that annoyed him. Why? Well, here's why. Okay, I am going to ignore asking you how many times did you call me. And I'm going to pretend that you say nothing. Oh, come on, Aki. I just wanted to know if you're done with your mission yet. Okay, let me ask you one thing. If I started this mission 2 days ago, with the list of the many women that you have asked me to find, do you believe that I'll have the time to finish targeting those women? Yes? Aki groaned once more. Come on, master. Can't you wait for at least a few weeks before calling me if I'm done? And why did you order me to do that ridiculous mission anyway? What's the deal of trying to get that one man to be together with a bunch of women? That's complete nonsense. So? I decided what I want, so don't complain. I am your master, and I ordered you to do this task for me, no matter how ridiculous it is. Now be a good dog and go along, Aki-puchi. I hate you, love you too. Bye. And the call had ended between Aki and his master. Sighing heavily, he closed his cell phone and put it away somewhere inside of his coat. What did I do to deserve this? He said, regretting to have served for a ridiculous master such as him. All right, class. Keep going. We're not gonna start playing some sports if you guys are going slower than a turtle. Then, he heard a voice coming from down there. Descending his gaze down, he saw a group of people moving out of the building, with a teacher leading the fray. Was it the class that he was waiting for? As he looked closely at them, he could see a familiar orange hair within them. So it is Kurosaki Ichigo. If he's with them, then Kichiki Rukia will most certainly be. He was right. Rukia was within the crowd, as she was moving from behind, as well as being the last person to leave the building. The target was in sight. Kichiki Rukia was his primary target for the time being. He slid his hand back inside of his coat, and he pulled out 2 objects, a straw and a dart. Putting the dart inside of the straw, he placed one end of it between his, as he aimed it at the young Shinigami, waiting for the right moment to shoot. Target in sight. Commence the aim. Find the right moment to execute. Down within the crowd, the black-haired Shinigami was receiving some popularity with her classmates, as they didn't stop speaking to her of some stuff, and they are still going even now. So, Kichiki-san, how long have you been in Karakura town? Asked a male student. Oh, I dunno. Maybe long enough to get to know the town pretty well. Thanks for asking, replied Rukia, as she smiled at the male student. Hey, I heard from a friend of mine that she saw you walking with Kurosaki-san this morning. Are you and Kurosaki-san friends, Kichiki-san? Asked a female student. Why, of course. Ichigo-san is my friend. We've known each other for quite some time, so we understand each other quite well. He's a great guy, if you get to know him well, she replied, smiling at the female student just like with the other one. As she continued to walk up with the group, she suddenly stopped, as her gaze was on the ground. Huh! Back up the building. At that moment, Aki's eyes were wide and in advantage. Commencing action, he said before he blew the dart from the straw, shooting it out of it, as it was flying straight to Rukia. The perfect shot. The dart was heading straight to Rukia's neck, and with an accuracy so straight, it would surely get her. Back down in the group, what Rukia was looking at down to the ground was a Chappie the rabbit doll. Her eyes were widened with happiness. Oh! A Chappie the rabbit doll. Kawaii, she said, as she bended down to grab the doll. and that was when the dart missed its target miserably, and it was heading straight at the part of the person who was walking in front of her Kigo's ass. As the dart struck it, Kigo yelped out, as he suddenly stopped himself from walking and froze in place. That was when Aki widened his eyes in shock and pure embarrassment. What? I missed? And I got a guy? Rukia got up from her bending position, as she had the doll in her hands. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, there, you little cutie rabbit. I'll take care of you for as long as you live, she said, as she resumed her walk within the group, passing Kigo, as he was still frozen in place. It took him a while to be able to move again, as he rubbed his bottom with his hand. Ow, hey, what was that just now? Did someone pinch my ass or something? He said, wondering what caused the pain that he received from down there. But then, he just shrugged it off, deeming it to be unimportant. Ah, who cares? I'll go ask Ichigo to be in my tam. Hey, Ichigo. He was about to run through the group, but then, he froze once more, as he was feeling something that he didn't really expect it to happen. He then blushed a little. Wait, why am I thinking about Ichigo differently? And why am I feeling something for Ichigo? And why do I have a sudden urge to be with Ichigo? Why? Kigo was confused about why he was feeling that way. But then, he gasped out of surprise, as his blush deepened in its reddish color. Oh. Does that mean that? Oh, but it is. I think I'm falling in love with. Bang! Suddenly, he was knocked down to unconsciousness, as he fell to the ground with a bump on his head. The one who knocked him down was Aki, who was holding a baseball bat with a frightened expression on his face. The dart got Kigo, and when that happens, that guy was starting to have feelings for. Oh God, that's horrible! Pulling out his cell phone out from his coat, he composed the number of his master and moved it near to his ear. Did you finish it yet? I need an antidote. Now. What? Oh, don't tell me that you're going to abort the mission. It's my one-time dream. And I'm not gonna let you quit it by making me create an antidote. I shot a guy with a love dart. Say what? I shot a guy with the dart. Oh. Okay, I can see what you're saying. I'll make the antidote now. Please be quick on it. Okay, did that guy, started ing his member? Aki widened his eyes in disgust, as he began to thought about that. Ugh. Just make the antidote, please. Okay, did he finger his ass? Ugh. Stop giving me mental images. It's creeping me out, you the man. And with that, the call had ended. Aki sighed. He wondered how long it would be for him to finish that mission. He had hoped that it would be soon, because it was starting to get from weird to frickin' disgusting. An hour has passed since then. And when it was the time to take an hour break from schoolwork, then that time was now. It was lunchtime, and everyone are free to roam around to eat or to do something for the noon activities, as long as they are still inside of the school grounds, and not doing anything bad around there. Rukia was seen walking around the school grounds with a joyful expression on her face. Every time she passed someone, they greeted with a smile. Well, looks like being a new student was pretty great for her. And she wondered if she would do that more often. But now, she was heading her way to find Orihime and the other girls so that she can eat lunch with, just like the old times. Man, it's great to be new here. I forgot how it feels like to be greeted politely by everyone that I pass by. Feels like I'm a queen of the school, she said, smiling to herself that her popularity was already underway through the entire school. But that popularity won't stay like that for long, as in a couple of more days, she would start to be treated as a normal student to everyone else. But oh well, easy come easy go. Hey you! The girl with the black hair. Yeah you! Suddenly, she heard someone calling out to her, and that guy was addressing to her, since she had black hair, and that there wasn't any people around who had black hair. As she stopped walking for the moment, and turned her head to see who was calling her, she was pretty surprised to see something that she didn't usually see in the school grounds. There was a mysterious guy sitting under the table, wearing a blue jinbei for his clothes and some kind of a weird and black coat which is usually being worn with a junihaido. He had silver, spike hair and she couldn't identify the eyes, since he was wearing sunglasses over them. And on the table that he was sitting under, there was a teapot and 3 teacups on a plate each, and there was a sign in front of the table, which says free tea sample, once per customer. He was smiling at her, as if he was trying to get her attention. Are you talking to me? Asked Rukia, confused as to why there was a tea stand in the school grounds for some reason. Yes. May I interest you with a free sample of my special tea? It's once per customer, so you better try it out before the lunch period ends, said the mysterious silver-haired man. What are you doing here in the school grounds? I don't think you're allowed to advertise without the principal's permission. That's what I did. I asked him about it, and he gave me the permission to advertise my tea. So there's no worries, now. Well, anyway, the mysterious man took a hold of the teacup, as well as the plate that it was standing, and he hovered it to the young Shinigami. Please, have a try of my free sample. I assure you, it tastes great. What's so special about it? She asked. Well, I put some special ingredients in it. This is my special tea, because this tea is something that is out of this world. Come on, try it. Rukia looked at the teacup closely, wondered if it was okay to take at least a sip of it. But she wondered if it wasn't something that poisons her or anything bad like that. Can I ask what's inside of the tea? Oh, just the usual. Beans, hot water, oh the usual stuff. Except for one thing. He shouted dramatically to her. My secret ingredient in this fabulous tea is sugar. Sugar? Rukia's slightly sweat dropped, as she thought that the guy was a little insane in his head. Who puts sugar in their tea? Certainly that guy. But if what he said was true, and if it was indeed sugar the secret ingredient to his special tea, then she would at least give it a try. All right, I'll take it, she said, as she took the teacup and the plate off of the mysterious man's hold. But before she could drink it, she looked down at the tea, still wondering if it's okay. With a small sigh, she took a small sip of the tea, tasting it so she could determine the quality of it. Well? How does it taste? Tastes kinda like a normal tea. Except there's some sugar in it, which did change the flavor of it. But I guess I can say that it's like a normal tea. Nothing different about it. Yes, I can see what you mean, said the mysterious man, who nodded at what Rukia said about his tea. It's not exactly a special tea. I said special in a sarcastic way. So it's nothing special about it, indeed. But you gotta admit, it does try and lower the fat inside of your body. Am I right? Well, I guess you're right, said Rukia, who shrugged. As she set the plate and teacup down back to the table, she gave a soothing smile to the mysterious man. Thank you for giving me a free sample of your tea. It was refreshing, to say the least. Heh. No problem. It's always a pleasure to give my customer a refreshed feeling. Rukia nodded in agreement. And so, she started to walk away from the stand, giving a farewell wave to the mysterious man. Bye. Have a nice day, mister. You too. Get good grades, miss, he said, waving back at her, as she was walking away from him, smiling at her for the last time before she disappeared from his sight. And with that, he smirked. Target has been reached. One down, many to go, he said quietly, smirking as he was able to accomplish one of the goals that he was going to do. He slowly took off his sunglasses to reveal a pair of purple eyes that he had, revealing himself to be Aki. He looked over to the teapot that he had in his possession, lifting the lid up to see the quantity of it. Seems normal, but it's missing a few drops of my secret ingredient, he said. Then, he slid his hand into the top of his jean-bay clothing, and he pulled out a dart, the same dart that he used to try and shoot Rukia with. Placing it on the table, he suddenly pulled out a hammer and slammed it against it a few times, just enough to break the dart in two. Grabbing the broken halves with one hand, he opened the lid of the teapot with the other, and poured some liquid that was coming from them. He then closed the lid and grabbed the teapot, whirling it around to mix the liquid into the tea. He then set it down gently, smirking. This is a pretty good idea. I got Rukia into drinking the tea that I mixed the potion in, and before long, she will start to feel for a certain primary target, he said, as he continued to smirk, as his idea was going well. There was only a handful of women left to target on. Shihoin Yoruchi, Arisawa Tatsuki, Matsumoto Ranjiku, and many, many more. And if he kept on advertising the tea, he would surely catch one of the girls that he was still targeting. But then, Mizuiro was passing by the tea stand, and upon seeing it, he got interested and went over to it. Oh! A free sample. Can I have a taste of it? No! Aki suddenly shouted through instinct, as he quickly swept the tea off the table, and grabbed the teapot, before throwing it away, clearing the table from any tea that resides there. We are closed. I am sorry, but why did you? We are closed, but the sign said that you're still open. Looking over to the sign, which was standing on the table, and showing that it was opened, he quickly grabbed it and spinned it around, before settling it down, showing the sign that says that they are closed. Closed. Mizuiro blinked at him for a few times, unsure of what just happened. But he decided to leave it alone and walked away from the stand. With Mizuiro out of the way, Aki sighed of relief. Although, if his tea attracts men, well, the lunch period was starting good, but now, it was almost the time for it to come to a close, as it had only a few more minutes before the next period of schoolwork starts. Everyone is starting to finish up what they were doing, and we're going back to class to start the next period. The trio of Rukia, Orihime and Tatsuki was one of them, as they got back inside of the school after having some lunch outside and chatting together. Just then, Tatsuki ate in despair, as she remembered that next week, there will be a big event that will take place. Oh yeah? I forgot that midterms is next week, and I still haven't studied yet, she said. Oh, that's okay, Tatsuki-chan, said Orihime, trying to comfort her friend by giving her a warm smile. We'll just have to study after school. We don't want to waste our time trying to goof around, just as we usually did, right? Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, let's study after school. I don't want to study alone without some company around, Tatsuki said, as she agreed to the idea of studying together with her friend. Then, she turned to Rukia to ask her about something. What about you? Do you want to study with us, Rukia? Oh, of course. Even though that I'm a new student around here, I can still take care of midterms no problem, said Rukia, smiling to show that she was determined and ready for the midterms that is coming next week. Well, at least you know that you can do it, Rukia. Alright, let's study together then. It'll be like a whole reunion, said Tatsuki, who smiled at the thought of studying together with her friend and new friend. Yo, you guys! The three girls all heard someone calling out to them, and as they turned to see who it was, Ichigo was walking towards them, waving at them as a sign that he was talking to them. Ichigo-kun! Orihime exclaimed, happy to see her lover there. Unable to resist the urge to go and lunge herself at him, she did just that, in which he caught her in his hold, as the two of them spinned around together, laughing as they found themselves together like this. Hey, Orihime-chan, said Ichigo, smiling down to his girlfriend, as they both stopped spinning around together. Hey, Ichigo, said Tatsuki, as she went over to the two of them, along with Rukia. I forgot to ask, are you ready for midterms next week? It's gonna be a pretty big thing to do that will make us stuffy for that. Well, of course. I'm not gonna let that one slip by from me. I got a pretty big future in my hands, and I'm not gonna let it slide off from them, if I don't succeed it, said Ichigo, as he pulled Orihime closer onto him, which made her giggle to be closer to the one she loved. What about you, Rukia? You think you're ready for that? He asked, as he turned his gaze to the young black-haired girl. Well, of course I am. I'm a new student, but I can still take care of that sort of thing. You don't have to look down on me, Ichigo-san, replied Rukia, as she smiled up to the orange-haired boy. However, when she looked up to him, there was something that made her jump inside. She widened her eyes wide enough to make Ichigo, as well as Orihime and Tatsuki, to look at her to see what she was doing. Huh? You okay, Rukia? Asked Ichigo, a little curious to know why she widened her eyes like that. In Rukia's view, there was something wrong with it. She had swear that the background changed from normal to heavenly pink, and that flowers were beginning to sprout around him. And also, she swore that she was starting to hear a heavenly music coming from the background. And looking at Ichigo like that made her blush. Kuchiki-san? Are you okay? Asked Orihime, a little worried for her friend. Rukia snapped out of what she was seeing, as she turned to look at Orihime. Oh, I'm alright. It's fine, really. Oh. Okay? Well, anyway, Ichigo started to say, as he came up with the subject. My friends and I are planning to go and study together in the library, and I was thinking you girls okay with studying with us? But don't worry, Kigo isn't coming with us, since he thought that midterms are well, not sure what he was thinking about that. Sure, Ichigo. You know, I really need some company anyway, Tatsuki said, smiling at the orange-haired boy. Orihime nodded in agreement, as she was already okay with studying with the other guys, since she will still be together with Ichigo. Then Tatsuki turned to look at Rukia, to see if she agrees too. What about you? Do you want to join Ichigo and the others? Oh. Sure, of course, Rukia said, without realizing that she was still blushing. I'm alright, as long as I have you two and that hunk Ichigo. It was then that she realized what she had just called Ichigo, as she quickly placed her hands over her mouth, widening her eyes in embarrassment. Huh? What did you say, Rukia? Asked Ichigo, raising his eyebrow at her, as he didn't hear what Rukia had called him. Oh, nothing. I didn't say anything. And I didn't call you anything in particular, Ichigo, you sexy beast. There it was again. She quickly covered her mouth once more with her hands, after putting them down seconds ago. I mean, I didn't say anything about you and your cute face. There it was once more. I mean, I sure wish that I can feel your muscles. Then another. I mean, I want to see how handsome that you'll like without a shirt on. Then another. It was then she decided to shut herself up from speaking anymore. Kuchiki-san? Are you sure that you're feeling alright? Asked Orihime, who was worried when Rukia was starting to act a little more out of behavior. The young Shinigami had just reached a new level of embarrassment, as her blush deepened in deep red. What was she saying? Why did she suddenly blurt out those words to Ichigo? She didn't think about it, nor did she had the feeling of it. She was speaking nonsense. And she said it in front of Orihime, Tatsuki and even Ichigo. She wanted to get away from them from being embarrassed any longer. So she thought out a way. Oh. I gotta go to the bathroom. See you guys in class, she said before she quickly ran off from the three of them. The three remaining students were left puzzled, and it was because Rukia was acting a little strange. Why, they wondered. Was she feeling okay, or, inside of the girls' bathroom, Rukia was found sitting on a toilet seat inside of one of the toilet cabins, trying to calm herself from what had just happened back there. What was she doing? Why did she say those things? And why couldn't she get Ichigo off of her mind? She was still blushing, even after getting away from them, and her blush was getting redder by the second that she thought of Ichigo. What's wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way for Ichigo? I've known him for some time and now, I'm acting like I'm excited for him. What's going on? Why do I have these feelings for him? And why can't I stop myself from blushing? She said, as she placed her hands on her face and pressed them against her skin to stop the blush from taking over her face. Ichigo, that was all she thought about inside of her mind, at the moment. Of how cute he was. Of how much stronger he was. Of how sexy he was on his body. She felt the need to touch his muscles. The need to embrace him so much. And the need for him to be inside of her. There was only one logical explanation for that. And it was something that she did not expect. Am I falling in love with Ichigo? Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Anomynous Nin for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.